Okay, welcome to triads minor. So all those major triads that we had before, we're going to turn them into minor chords. So this was the major triad we started with, G, B, and D. Root, third, fifth. If you go through your scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, every other note. Root, third, fifth. To make a minor chord, you're going to go root, flat, third, fifth. So all I have to do is just flatten this first finger. I'm going to use a ba. So fret-wise, 5, 3, 3. G, B flat, D. Then we take these inversions. G moves to B flat moves to D, and D moves to G. And we end up with this voicing, which I can finger two different ways. I can go 2, 1, 3, or 3, 1, 4. And remembering that this came from this triad, G major here, right? B, D, F. When you're smiling, now I'm just going to flatten this B, and I'm not going to do that. I could do that. Probably won't. Hierarchy of fingers. I'm going to go 2 and then the 3 on the tippy top. G minor there. The next chord I had was G major here, and now I need to drop that third here as the B to B flat. So once again, I can finger these different ways. So we put them all together. G minor, root position, G in the bass. G minor, first inversion, B flat in the bass, and then G minor, second inversion with D in the bass. Cool. G minor. Now, we could also play these as 4-note chords and just double the octave here. So I could do G minor here, or do G minor here, or do all 4 notes. Or, of course, you're going to see this out of a G minor this way, bar chord. Here I've got B flat, D, G. I could put the G minor, I could put the B flat here and double this note octave, because that's an octave relationship. You'll probably recognize this as an open D minor. Now usually when I go open chord down here, I use my pinky, so I just have a little bit more room. But that also means that I have this note in the bass. Right, for all my hillbilly songs, I can do a little noodle finger here. Well, I'm just moving this up. This was the D note. This is a G note. So this is a G minor chord. Cool. And I can use 3 notes of it there, 3 notes of it here, or I can use all 4 notes. Here was my G minor, and I also could do a G minor here in the tippy top, 3, 2, 1. This was my major for the tippy top strings, 3, 2, 3 pinky 1, but now I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. Or I could do it that, and you're going to see it's all coming from this shape, G minor. So we got G minor, G minor, G minor. Of course, now the trick is to turn my C chords. I'm going to do a 1 minor, 4 minor, 5 minor. So C minor. This is the one I left off of on G way up here, but now it's on C. Visualize the C minor. Right? Can't play Stairway to Heaven without it. This is C minor, right there. I can do 3 notes, or I could just do 3 notes there. And then this would be C minor, or this. This C minor. So here are my C minors in 3rd position, out of this bar chord. C minor in 8th position, out of this bar chord. Or that bar chord, and then C minor in 11th position. Now this one you couldn't really do a bar chord. Some of those chords in Cage don't turn out to be minor chords so much because I don't have enough fingers to do that as a bar chord. So I could do it as a bar chord here, but well, what am I saying? I could do it. We can manipulate this, but then I lose this note. So don't worry about that shape so much, or just get this part of it. C minor, C minor, C minor. Then we need D minors, which I can start with open D minor, and of course I already talked about how I just double up that note there. So this is D minor with an F in the bass, D minor with an A in the bass, and then D minor with a D in the bass, root position. Put them all 3 together. When you're doing these 1, 4, 5s, now this is 1 minor, 4 minor, 5 minor. Anytime you do 1, 4, 5s, you want 3 different chords, 3 different places. G minor, C minor, back to G minor, then down to D minor. Cool. I'm going to go G minor here, so I'll do that one more time. G minor, right out of this shape. C minor, out of this shape. And then D minor, like an open chord, but with this note on it. And back to G minor. Then I go G minor here, C minor here, D minor here, and G minor here. I can go G minor here, C minor here, D minor here, and back to G minor. So you should never use the same shape twice. Don't just do C minor and then jack it up to D minor and back down to D minor, because that won't have voice leading that we talked about. G minor, C minor, G minor, D minor. Now, a lot of minor songs actually use 1 minor, 4 minor, 5 major. If you don't understand that, you don't pay me enough. Here's G minor. Here's C minor. Back to G minor. What's nice about this, when you use the D major, it sort of brightens it up, but it has that half step. See, when I was doing D minor, I didn't have my leading tone anymore. So it's not nearly as urgent, but that's a different lesson in a different video. So G minor, C minor, D major, and G minor. G minor, C minor, D major, I could do here. And now since I'm doing it as a 4 note, I could do it just with these 3 notes or these 3 notes, but if I put it as a 4 note, a little trickier to get to. I've got to do like an open A chord, and then there's my string that would be normally open, right? I've got to preserve that. I could do it with a ba this way too as well. Hard to keep your wrist straight when you're doing these kinds of chords. Not my favorite. But real easy if you do it as a 3 note chord, right? And then back to G minor. G minor, any minute now. G minor, C minor, G minor, D major. So those are really good to get together as well. And remember, we could convert these to all these different shapes. If this was G major, then you can figure out G minor. If this is G major, you can just make the B naturals B flats. And I'm not going to write all this stuff out for you, or probably will. It's probably on some sheet somewhere. But I think you should go through and do them yourself, because that's the best way to really understand where your root thirds and fifths are, is when you have to go through and manipulate and flat a third. That's when you're going to get your stuff together as far as linking this guitar neck together. So learn all your G minors, all the G majors that you did, turn them into G minors. All the C majors you did, turn them into C minors. All the D majors you did, turn them into F sharp diminished. No, turn them into D minors. But then I'm going to show you a little trick what we can do. I'm going to go back to G major. And what's the relative minor of G major? Well, if you're on a G, go down 3 frets, not counting the one you're on. Don't count this one. 1, 2, 3, and make a minor chord. E minor, that's almost just like a G major chord. Weird. If I did E minor 7th here, here's G. So if I took a G chord and put an E on it, I get E minor 7. If I took a G chord, like this G chord, and that's G, B, D, what I'm going to do is replace the D note with the E, which in this case is 6. And the 6 I call the boogie woogie note. More commonly on the guitar, it's where you have your power chord here. You know. So wherever you take your 5th and you just put a whole step above it, make sure you go a whole step, or else you'll be playing Eminem songs. We want the, I also call it the cowboy note if we do it in 3/4. So the cowboy note or the boogie woogie note. But if I end this right here, I'm going to leave my pinky on for the D note. So instead of the 5th, I put in the 6th. So this would be a G6 chord, right? Sure, absolutely. G6. And for some of you, I already know that voicing. G6, one of my very favorite chords in the world. G6, it's an E minor chord. Here's E minor, a little baby E minor. This was D minor down here. Slid it up. That's E minor. And I put this octave on, so this is G6 or E minor. There's my low E note. It sounds like a minor chord, it sounds sad. Here's my low G note. It sounds kind of happy. So these guts are going to be the same. The only thing that's going to really change is the bass player. So if you took a G chord and put on the 6, you get E minor. And this was just one of my shapes after you go through E major and realize where the 3rd is. Well, that G sharp becomes G natural. There too, E minor. So here's a G major up here. Once again, I'm putting in all 4 notes. I could take 3 notes or 3 notes. It's not going to matter. Where's my D note? It's here on the 3rd string. So I put in my pinky, and that's E minor. Once again, G major, E minor, same darn chord. You can think of this as G6. You can think of this as E minor. Conceivably, think of it as both. Here was the G major chord with one finger, and then this note needs to be up there too, so here's 3 notes. So to put all 4 notes, I have to do this. Now since the D's are on the outside, 4th string, D, tippy string, D. If I take these D's to E, right? Normally if I do this, I call that the ukulele chord. G6s remind me of a ukulele. So here's my 6 here, but there was also a D here, so I put it up to here. E minor, E minor, E minor, E minor. So anytime you find a major chord, if you know where the 5th is, you put in the 6 and you get a minor chord. So G, G6 or E minor, G, G6 or E minor, G, or G, or G, or G6 or E minor. Now, I've moved up, haven't I? Because I'm going to do this, I don't have to get this behind me note. I'm up to here, so E minor up here. Well, now I can go through all my C chords, and the relative minor of C is A minor. Here's A minor, here's C. That's A minor 7th. If I put the A note right here and then put my pinky on C, so it's just A minor with the pinky on the C, that's what you'll find in like Mel Bay Books 101 good chord books, how to play C6. They call this a C6 chord. If I take that note off, that's just a normal C, although it looks weird because I'm fingering it funny. So that's a C chord, but when I get into my little shapes here, this was C, or this was C, this little puppy up here, right? So if I put the C6 on here, it becomes A minor. If I put the C6 on here, it becomes A minor. Right? If I put them all together, C6. Here's my C chord. Here's my C6. This is where I started on the G, that shape. It's out of this bar chord. C. Replace the G with A, and you get C6 or A minor. This is a little minor triad, moved all the way up to A. Right? And then we've got C up here. Here is my A note. I put in the 6. And that should be my C6, which also looks exactly like A minor. Could have also done that open. Then the D chord, the 5 chord in the key of G, because I'm going to go 1, 4, 5. But out of my 1, 4, 5, all those have a relative minor. D. There's B minor right there. And in that B minor 7th chord that I'm playing, you can see an open D chord, right? Or this chord, D with F sharp in the bass. So if I find the 5th of D, D, root, 3rd, 5th, Michael Rowe. There's my A note. I'm going to put in the B note, refinger it, and even get the tippy top note. So I can do these 3 notes, B minor. I can do Sunday, Bloody Sunday, right? B minor right there, right out of this. Or B minor like this, I can open A minor, it's been moved up, and then capoed. Or D6, boogie woogie. D major is here. When I add the tippy top note, I have to go backwards. So to put them all together, I'd have to do something crazy like this, or just get my bar out of the way, and that's just not going to be consistent. I'm not going to be able to grab that chord quickly. I might be able to punch it in, but I'm not going to get that well, so I never do that chord. Might do this, might do the whole enchilada, or just use a piece of it. Here's, and this is D. This is my A, or my 5th. So you move it up to there, and that would be B minor, my friend. B minor, D major. See, D major and B minor share these same guts. That's what a relative major and relative minor does. Different bass note, same D and A. B minor with a tippy top note. If I were just here with D major, the B minor would just be a 1 finger, which of course I could do with any finger, depending on where I've been and where I'm going. But all 4 notes, B minor. And then D major up here, all 4 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, all 4. Put on the pinky on the bunny string, Easter bunny, and I can do cowboy stuff. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or boogie woogie. Or 6 chords also turn out to be great rockabilly chords. Western swing chords. We're going to do a whole nother video on all these chords that we just did. We'll learn how to use them twice as much. But now I can stay in this one position. Now I could have done, this is another really geeky thing that you should do, is G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor. If one of these days one of your good guitar teacher teaches you how to play an F sharp diminished chord, you learn that. We're going to do the diminished chords here in just a second. So remember, the 7th chord I usually throw away yet. We're not quite ready for that. And then don't worry about this, extra credit, and then back to G. Well, I'm just going up the chords, right? And that's fine, sure. But there's no voice leading in there because I'm just moving all my notes up. It's just going in parallel motion, which is a little boring on the ears. What I could do is if here's my G, well, here's E minor. And if here's my C, well, here's A minor. And if here's my D, well, there's B minor. And then I'm back to C and D, and I'm going to skip the F sharp and get G. So I could do G. Now, I will go up to this minor for next, even though that is parallel motion. We could do other things later. But that's also voice leading because I don't move more than a whole step, half step, whole step. Cool. Then B minor, I'm going to come down to this one, right? Which was just a D chord. Really, once again, G, C, D. Those 3 shapes, G, I can get the E minor, C, I can get the A minor, and D, I can get the B minor. So I can go G, A minor, B minor, C, D, I need an E minor, so it's a G with the pinky note on, and then I'm screw the F sharp and back to G. So G, and now when I go to A minor, it's really a C with an A on it. When I go to B minor, it's really a D with a B on it, and I go to C, and then D, back to D, and then I skip the F sharp and get G. So that's another way of looking at your minor chords. It's going to be nice to look at them 2 ways, because every time I see a chord, I see more than one chord. I see 7 or 8 chords right now. And today we're just going to talk about 2 of them. That it could be G or E, right? Relative major, relative minor. Same darn chords. But getting all your minor shapes together, and once again, there's going to be 3 sets of strings. So G minor, G major, G minor, G major, G minor. But you could also look at all these major chords as put in the 6. So there's G, B, E, and that would be an E minor triad. It's the same one that we did up here on G minor, but down a third. If I did G here, G, D, B, D, G, if I put in the E, that would actually be an E minor triad. If I did D, G, B, if I put in the E here, that's E minor triad. But I'm not going to work those out for you. You need to work those out on your own. So work out your minor triads 2 ways. One is relative and one's parallel, meaning G major and G minor are parallel. They're both G's, right? G major, G minor. They're parallel because the G's the same, the root's the same. But G major is also relative to E minor, and that's called relative because they have, here's the root is G, here's the root is E, open, E minor. So when I go back to G major to G minor, well, G minor is relative to B flat major, isn't it? So B flat triad would be here, 3, 3, 3 on the 4, 3, 2 strings. And then when I put the boogie woogie note there, that makes G minor. So every major chord you should see as a, every major chord you should be able to manipulate, add the 6 and turn it into a minor chord from its relative. Or every major chord you should manipulate and just flat the 3rd, and that's be the parallel minor. Now G major is not related to G minor whatsoever, not at all. It's just, if you don't understand that, learn your dang triads. It doesn't really matter yet if you don't understand it. Learn the darn chords. If you don't want to learn the chords on every set of string, just start with these, either these 4, 3, 2 or the tippy top strings. I think that's where your triads. We talked about all this is for like lead rhythm guitar. You wouldn't be playing lead rhythm guitar down here. You're probably not going to play a G triad like that very much, or a G minor. It's just too muddy. But one of these days when you're taking really cool guitar solos, you're going to see these shapes. So that's why we study these.